7:15. I want to welcome to the microphone. We have Mark Oliver and Dennis Dunderdale here. Good morning, gentlemen. Arkansas Game and Fish.
Good morning.
Good to have you all here.
Yeah,
good to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity. We kind of do this
we're
once a month now, I guess.
Once a month now. It's good. Yeah.
It's kind of
the last Wednesday of the month, we're going to have Arkansas Game and Fish
came in on a lark with Judy Fagan to promote the Veterans Archery program, and now I'm a regular.
Look what you got yourself into.
Exactly. No, this is really a good opportunity for Game and Fish. And today we're here with Mark Oliver. I've known Mark for, I can't remember back when I lived in Memphis, I met Mark. He was living and working here out of the Mountain Home office, and of course now he's the fisheries division chief, and will be retiring later on this year. So I thought this would be a great opportunity. Most of the folks in the listening area have either heard of or know Mark personally, and so I thought this would be a great chance for Mark to come in and just kind of reminisce and talk about what the good old days were and the good new days, and just kind of how it's been, and kind of walk down memory lane a little bit.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come back up here. It always really does feel like home, especially as soon as I drive into Searcy County, which used to be part of this district.
Right.
And then start seeing the people I've known for years and years. And so I just have to say I've been absolutely blessed to have an opportunity to work up here, to work with the Game and Fish Commission. When I do retire in June, it'll be almost 38 years.
Good career.
And most of that career was spent up here from 1980 to 2005. Before that, I spent 2 years at our Joe Hogan State Fish Hatchery at Lone Oak, which I have to say was a great program. We were called biologists in training. We were fresh out of college and knew everything, and we knew that the people who were our supervisors knew nothing. And so, but it was great because I got to go around the state and work with biologists from different projects and learn how to, propagate fish, which is great to know how to raise them and to take care of them. Helps you when you get out into the natural world. So I've been fortunate and I've been lucky, and this area has been just a wonderful place to work for somebody with a career like mine.
How did you get going in this? Was this a passion that came from your dad? I know Dr. Oliver is was a renowned fisheries professor at Henderson. Is that right?
At Henderson.
At Henderson. And of course, I just ran into one of our commissioners the other day who studied under Dr. Oliver, and I'm assuming that had something to do with it. But what was your beginnings?
I came by it naturally. I always loved the outdoors and the water and fishing and hunting, and my father, just from an early age, we would go for walks, and he would talk about the natural world. He would always talk about these fascinating things. Maybe it was about ants or birds or whatever, but my whole life. And so it just kind of got locked in some way, and so it all worked out where I could end up doing what I had lived my whole life, basically. And he was a fisheries biologist and a limnologist working with water quality, and mammologist and ornithologist, and he was super knowledgeable, and he was always a great sounding board once I got in the commission. So he always was very helpful. I still think about what I would ask him if he was still alive, and but yeah, that I attribute a lot of it to him.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
that's quite a story, because to try to encapsulate that kind of a career with that kind of a legacy into a small show. It's funny, even just with my short tenure at Game and Fish, I have folks come to me all the time and say, "Oh, that's going to be the best job in the world," and it really is. I've never worked so hard, got paid so little comparatively, but had so much fun and enjoyed what I do, and I know that Mark has shared that too.
Yeah.
And but one of the things that folks always say is, "Oh, you must get to fish and go hunting all the time and all that." It's not really quite like that, is it, Mark?
Well, it isn't like that, but I'm like you. I can't tell you how many times I stopped and thought, how can I possibly being paid to do this work?
Right.
And in the places you get to see and the places you get to work,
Right.
I mean, we do get to fish, but it's with gill nets and seines and electrofishing equipment, and it's great fun. But when you do it day after day, and it does involve a lot of work, it can get old. But having people like Dennis, I remember when you first started, you were so interested, and you'd go do everything. And we have, I can't tell you how many people in this area have helped us do that sort of thing. And having new people come out, and we electrofish at night here for bass and walleye and other species, because the water's clear and they come up shallower. You can get them, and over the years I've had hundreds of people from the area interested and come and work hard, but they kind of rejuvenate you every time when they do it. So, and plus you get to show people what's really out there. They may think there's no fish, and there at times there hasn't been many fish, because they cycle just like everything. But I think that's the big two things about this area is the resources are so great. Bull Shoals and North Fork, Crooked Creek, White River, North Fork River, you name it, Spring River, Buffalo. All these resources are so great for many levels, and especially the fishing.
Right.
And the people here are so knowledgeable and so experienced and so passionate about it that it drives you when you're in these kinds of positions to do more, to try to take care of it. They won't let you sit back and relax too much.
And you can't really fake it with a lot of the experts too. If they ask you a question about, well, why is I was asked not terribly long ago, how come there aren't as many big fish, big trout? Because we're really blessed in this area. We've got the lakes, which are walleye, bass, smallmouth bass, crappie, all of that. But we also have arguably by many, myself included, one of the best trout fisheries on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, two of the best trout fisheries on the planet right here, and several world records to prove it. But I was asked recently, what about, the big fish? So I went to our trout program supervisor, Christy Graham, and I relayed that question to her. And what I love about the biologists and these folks, and Mark's whole crew, in fact, all of the biologists at Game and Fish are like this, they're not going to give you the political party line. She reached into her file, broke out data, facts, information, and said, well, let me just show you what the last 4 samplings, show for size. The trout are on I forget what percent increase she said, but she had the facts and the figures to back it up. And that's what's really good is a lot of these folks, you're talking about some world famous guides who just make their career out of understanding what's in the water and how it all works. They're not going to take the answer of, oh, it's better, trust me. No. And these guys do a great job.
That's exactly what I mean by getting kind of driven by it.
Yeah.
And a 38-pounder every now and then.
It doesn't hurt, does it?
Is a little bit of proof of what these rivers up here can do.
You get your picture in the paper with that kind of fish.
You sure can. Almost got into the record book by a few pounds. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. When you're really questioning whether or not a 38-pounder is a world record or not, anywhere else, that would have been no question. There would have been a parade in your honor for that. And here it was, 40 pounds? 4 ounces was our previous world record. That's been broken a couple of times now. I know it was up in Michigan. I don't know where it is now. But it'll be back here again. There's no question about that, whether it's on the Little Red or the White or the Norfolk.
Well, did you gentlemen see what the fish was caught in southwest Missouri?
The paddlefish.
Yeah.
140 pounds.
That's a huge paddlefish. And we just had our new state record caught out of Beaver Lake, which was 105 pounds, which is also a huge paddlefish.
And where were Jeremy and Paul shocking the other night? And they shocked up a paddlefish. I want to say they were on Bull Shoals Lake, but I could be wrong about where that was. But and they were surprised by that. Yeah,
we've seen them because they're in Table Rock, and they do eventually sometimes work their way down. We've seen them a few over the years that were tagged, so we knew where they came from. They're stocked by Missouri into Table Rock.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
There have been some phenomenal programs that the Fisheries Division has been involved in over the years, and I know you've been around. What did you say, 38 years? So you were
38.
probably here when the brown trout were introduced. Were you? Were you
no,
part of that?
I wasn't. Not quite that.
Not quite.
Yeah, that was probably back in the 60s, possibly even the 50s.
Well, right after
okay.
I moved here in 1972, at that time a world record brown trout was taken out, I think at Cotter, 1972, 1973, perhaps 1974, in that time frame.
Well, maybe
We've
I'm
had pretty
maybe
steady
I'm
stream.
thinking on the Little Red. I know the Mid-South Fly Fishers out of Memphis was involved in one
Right.
of those programs, and I think that's what I'm thinking.
You're
of.
right,
Yeah.
and that's true.
At Cow Shoals. There,
They
yeah.
help stock
Yeah.
fish there.
Let's go ahead and take the news break. We're visiting with Mark Oliver and Denis Dunderdale of Arkansas Game and Fish. We'll continue the discussion. I'm going to go learn to talk. We'll finish the discussion right after this. 7:34 on a beautiful Wednesday morning. Turning the microphone back over to Denis Dunderdale of Arkansas Game and Fish, along with Mark Oliver.
Yeah, back again. So
Now let me hit the mic. There we go. Now you're on.
So, Mark, I don't know that I know anybody, at least in my fishing life, that doesn't know you. And that's quite a feat, quite a legacy. And what's amazing is, and I'm not just saying this because we're live or because you're here, but every one of them has a positive comment to say. And I'm not trying to embarrass you, but why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the connections you've made and the people that you've built relationships with?
It is a little embarrassing, but I want to say, and I'm on the verge of retiring, as you mentioned. I want to say there's been great things accomplished, and I am proud to have been involved with them. But none of them could have happened without all the people up here who are willing to give their time, their money, their equipment, you name it, to help do something for the resources up here.
Right.
So it's some of these things get attributed to me, but I probably had the least to do of some of them because people were so willing to give of their time. It's impossible to start going through a list of people because I would forget somebody. I would hate myself, but we've had the benefit of working with other agencies. The Corps of Engineers has been wonderful. The Forest Service, and here I go, and maybe forgetting NRCS. So many people that they were passionate themselves for the resources, and they've worked with us, and all together we've done all these really neat things. And I think that's, if I have a message to send to anybody, is that Arkansas is a small state. Everybody knows everybody, and we all work together. And I know a lot of states aren't that way. And I think the people need to know how well their agencies work together and how we pool our resources. We worked with Missouri for years and years, and we've done a lot of cross-the-border work that's enhanced the resources. So I just want to give a big note of appreciation to all those folks who have put in so much time and are still doing it up here. This area will continue to produce all that kind of work because it's such a wonderful resource to manage, and there's so many passionate people out there. All of the clubs, the associations, the citizens groups, I can't tell you how much time they've devoted to what we do up here and to taking care of the resources. So you can't do it what's been done without all that kind of help, and I for one appreciate it more than I can tell anybody, because it made all the difference in the world. Made a lot of things possible that couldn't be possible in other places. So I'm very proud of all the people up here and how much they contribute.
Yeah.
One thing I need to interject here, and I've got some friends that are part of the Friends of the Norfolk National Fish Hatchery. I want your comments about the importance of that fish hatchery, not only here but in Heber.
Our trout fishery in Arkansas has been estimated through several really good studies to be nearly $200 million to our economy. So trout fishing is not only a a great recreational value for the folks up here, but it's also just a big high dollar income economy. It's a lot of the money. 40% of our trout anglers come from other states. So, and we were talking during break about what it involves when somebody comes here, and that money just kind of multiplies out, and it's not generated in Arkansas originally. It just comes here, and we've got problems every year fighting for funding for these two federal trout hatcheries, Norfolk and Greers Ferry.
Right.
That means so much to us, and we've had a lot of help from our legislators, from Senator Bozeman, Representative Crawford have been, especially Representative Crawford's been working very hard to secure permanent funding source, and.
Let me interject. He's going to be in Mountain Home on the 3rd. I'm trying to find that PSA. I believe Leon Alexander sent that. Yeah, real quick here. Let me interject here.
I wasn't going to name names, but Leon's been a great force
He sure
in
has.
that.
Yep, he sure
Rick
has.
Crawford will be at El Chico's restaurant. 6. The meeting's at 7. The cost around $15 per person. And Congressman Crawford in town to talk about the fish hatcheries. And it looks like, I believe, perhaps John Payton, or one of the state reps, will be up too. So that's coming up on April 3rd. I need to throw that in right there.
And that's the Friends of the Hatcheries
Yes, that's
annual
Friends of-
meeting.
yeah.
So yeah,
No, that's not a state agency. Let me
Correct.
interject.
Right.
It's not Arkansas Game and Fish.
that's what we
but-
call an NGO, a non-governmental organization.
There you go.
Yep. Mhm.
And they've been very active. They, again, put in a lot of time, their own money, equipment, and have done a lot of great things, and keep the focus on. So that's what it takes in these modern times, and up here people understand that and are willing to put the time in, and I just can't say enough about them.
Yeah, I agree. How many personnel work for Game and Fish now? About 500 something?
We have a little under 600, 550, I
Okay,
think.
well, if you divide that into 75 counties, simple math
All
tells
of a
me
sudden,
that's somewhere
Arkansas
around.
becomes a big state.
Well,
Right.
not only that, but when you figure that's only 8 or 9 personnel per county, there is absolutely no way that any of what gets done could ever get done with that few people just working for Game and Fish. So we are completely reliant, not completely, but we're heavily reliant on the efforts of interested volunteers, and each in their respective areas of interest, whether it's fishing and the same thing goes on in the hunting world, and the same thing goes on in the watching wildlife world and in the boating world. And I mean, it just multiplies itself out. We would absolutely be nowhere without the people from the public that get
Yeah.
involved and do what they do.
But that lets me say that I've worked with a lot of people over time, and our employees up here, our state employee, our game and fish employees up here are second to none. They're passionate. They're hard workers. They put a lot more time in than anybody realizes, because they're out there when people aren't out.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
a few people that know, that see them out there at night working
Sure.
or on the weekends.
Sure.
But we have our trout program here, our district fisheries program, our trout habitat program,
Sure.
located right here in Mountain Home, and they are all really good at what they do, and they're very dedicated people who I think we're lucky to have all of them up here, and I hope before too long to continue to enjoy what Dale was talking about, is getting out there and fishing and enjoying the resource itself.
You bet. Yep.
For folks that don't know, Mark, this is the first time here, and I asked the questions that somebody might be too embarrassed to ask. The purpose and the main function of Arkansas Game and Fish. Just your basic function as a state agency.
We have a mission statement, and I'm sorry I can't quote it exactly, but it's our job to take care of the fish and wildlife resources of the state, and that includes all the sport fish, the hunting, the watchable wildlife that Dennis mentioned, the non-game species that are so important to the ecology of our streams and lakes. If we don't have them, there's a sign something's wrong. And so you don't have the top end, which is the sport fish that we
Right.
enjoy. So it's just almost anything that you could think of that has to do with taking care of that. We work with habitat a lot. We work with the people who use the resource, and we work with the animals that make up the resource. So it's kind of a three-legged stool there.
Exactly.
Now, this is about the time of year, maybe about another month or so, we'll get a black bear cub running through town, one of the neighborhoods. What's the bear population? You tag bears?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've been on denning trips. It's 4,000 to 5,000. It's kind of hard to put an actual hard number on it. I'm actually hoping that we can get our state bear biologist up here to do a show with us someday and talk about. There is one of the most successful large game population restoration stories in the history of the world. I don't mean in U.S. history, in the history of the planet here in Arkansas. And I'll give you a little tease. We were once known as the bear state. Before we were the natural state, we were the bear state. And the numbers at the time, if you wanted to perimeter out what the territory was for Arkansas, was about 50,000 bears, which is a huge number for an area this size. And a survey in and around the 20s found that there were about 25 to 50 bears left in the state. And we'll get into why all that was when we do that show. Now we've built that back up through some really good programs that Game and Fish pretty much spearheaded, and now we're back up to a very good, sustainable, healthy for the people, healthy for the bears, healthy for the environment. It's right where it needs to be. Good. So it's a great, great success story. Yep. Yeah. The thing about what we do, I get asked that question a lot. Most of my time is spent either in front of school groups or I'm in the education division. And so we get asked that a lot. What does Game and Fish do? Or if they don't ask, I'll ask them, do you know what Game and Fish does? And the way I like to put it is, because wildlife takes care of itself, unlike we all have pets or some people have livestock, and it's our job to take care of them. But the livestock, the wildlife is supposed to take care of itself, which includes fish and pretty much anything out there. Game and Fish doesn't take care of the wildlife. What we do is we facilitate the things that make sure the wildlife can take care of themselves. Sure. And at the same time, make sure that the people get to enjoy that. And that's, in a nutshell, what we do. Yeah.
Does the EPA get in your way?
They don't get in my way.
Because
I mean, indirectly, but...
I had some folks in, sometimes the EPA, that's a whole nother show. I mean, the EPA and how they can overprotect, yes, we need the protection, but sometimes I think we overprotect on our own private property. But I was telling somebody the other day, I said, years ago I saw a TV show where a guy had changed the motor oil on his vehicle and poured it in a stream. I thought, oh my gosh, no, don't do that.
Right.
And I'm sure you don't run across that, but different hazards, stuff that we just take for granted. I mean, my grandparents used to have 8 acres in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And we'd walk along there, and there's a rusted old pickup truck that somebody left there 100 years ago,
Right.
Does that affect wildlife?
Well,
or do they just take it all with a grain of salt?
I think, and I'm speaking completely unscientifically here, there are people that would probably build a very strong argument either way on that. To me, it's all about moderation. If you're talking about a pickup truck that's sitting in the middle of a section somewhere, which is how many acres, I forget, 480 or something like that. It'll have a negative impact on that small footprint, or maybe a small plume around that small footprint. But over time, will either sustain itself, maybe over hundreds of years it'll take in that small area. That's not so much the issue. The issue is when people just go in and just start indiscriminately cutting. Oh. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest areas is along the riparian zones, the edges of the rivers. And you see that when you drift down the river, when folks will just clear cut everything from where they built their house right down to the river edge. And then to make it worse, we'll pile up a bunch of stone, which will do nothing but get sun-beaten and heat up and raise the water temperature and change the entire ecosystem along that whole stretch. And you see that a lot. And you'll see it usually in subdivisions on the river where you won't just have one house, but maybe dozens of houses. And that does have a huge impact. So as far as the EPA, I don't know that they regulate that so much. Of course, the EPA in Arkansas is really it's the ADEQ. It's the state agency, and they do have some suggestions and guidelines.
There's been a lot of ways that EPA regulations have helped, and that reminded me of another group that's in our office here at Mountain Home, is our enforcement division,
right?
Who are also another you may not necessarily appreciate them sometimes being out there, but they are instrumental in protecting our resources. So, and they're all highly motivated. Same way, they love the resource and they love protecting it. EPA goes too far some ways, in my opinion. But overall, our water quality is improving. Things are actually getting better. We're living in a cleaner environment.
That's true.
So you got to maybe take the swings.
Take the bad with the good.
Bad with the good.
Right.
Need to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 7:53, closing out the show with Mark Oliver and Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish. Dennis?
During the break, we were just talking about the Conservation License Plate Program, the CLP we call that, which, you see those around and you buy those when
Those are beautiful.
They really are, and there's a bunch of them now. And of course, that costs $35, and Game and Fish gets $25 of the $35, and the other $10 goes to the Department of Finance. And that money goes towards outdoor education and conservation and those types of things. In fact, Mark, your group probably enjoys some of that money.
We get some help from, we call it CLP money.
Yeah.
And I will put out a plug that the current one is a smallmouth bass. Which I think I encourage everybody up here because it's such a popular fish up here. We use it for our aquatic resources education program.
Right.
Our stream team uses some of it. Our family and community fishing programs benefit from some of it. So it's been helpful for us to deliver education to mainly kids, but adults too. So it's been a great program, and I agree. I love the plates.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they
artwork.
Really are. What some folks do is they will, and I never thought to do this because I always have. I've got 3 vehicles and they all have one on there. But some folks get the new one every year, and it doesn't cost you any more to do that. It's $35 whether you keep the one you had or whether you get another one, and then they of course collect those. And some folks are astute enough to have the complete collection, which has become totally collectible. Yeah.
That's cool.
Before we close out, I do want to make a plug. We've got a hunter education class coming up. It'll be an evening series this time. It will be April 6th, 7th, and 8th, if I've got that right. Is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Yes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the shed at Arkansas State University. Starts at 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You have to be there all 3 nights. Call me at 870-321-5548 and also watch agfc.com. Follow the education links to Hunter Ed, and
you'll send me a promo on that, won't you?
I sure will.
And we'll get that on the
calendar. I appreciate you guys promoting that for us. You do a good job there.
Quite an honor to have Mark Oliver here today, and I'm sure he's known throughout the northwest part of the state. Think you can come back before you retire in June? Love to have you come back.
Possible. I'd love to come back up here, so it's good for my soul, and I thank you for having me.
Once dive season gets going, you might see him in the area, right? Mark's an avid diver, too. So thank you very much.
40 seconds, Dennis. What do you got coming up for us in the next couple of months?
Well, this weekend starts the state tournament for the Archery in the Schools program. Good. That's a huge program. We discussed that a little bit last time. In fact, I don't know where. I think it's number 2 in the country.
Good.
Behind Kentucky where it starts. That's going on at the Summit Arena down in Hot Springs. Many of the schools in the listening area will be down there for that. They do it different this year. Friday, tomorrow it starts. That will be seniors, and then Saturday will be the juniors. So that's a big deal going on. We've got turkey season coming up, so those of you that don't have your Hunter Ed cards yet, make sure you catch that card. And we're starting to build up the Arkansas Youth Shooting Sports programs. That's getting ready to roll, and those kids need to have a Hunter Ed card too.
It's been a pleasure to have Denis and Mark here from Arkansas Game and Fish, and look forward to next month, gentlemen.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
It's the Rush Morning Update, followed by Glenn Beck. See you tomorrow.